I'm Brian Van, Sport Bike Track Gear. I am here today with Josh.
What's up, man?
Not much. Josh drove all the way up last night from North Carolina with his brand new 2016 Kawasaki ZX-10R so we could install this M4 Tech 1 Carbon cat eliminating slip-on exhaust that M4 donated for a giveaway and install. And of course, you're only going to use this motorcycle when we're done on the
Track.
because we are eliminating the emissions. Okay, the Tech 1, this is a brand new carbon canister from M4. Got a cool end cap to it. This is the cat eliminating system. Okay, it's available a couple different ways. The one we're doing is going to eliminate the muffler box right underneath the bike. It's going to lose weight, add power, and get rid of this gigantic, bulky stock exhaust. In doing this, we're also going to be removing the exhaust valve, okay? We will have a complete separate video on installing an exhaust servo buddy to make sure we don't have a check engine light on the bike. Let's focus now on the system, okay? We've got a sweet titanium mid-pipe, barrel clamp. It has a bung for an O2 sensor if you want to use an auto tune, something like that. Sweet carbon canister, carbon strap. This particular system also includes a race mount bracket. We talked to Josh and he said his wife's not going to ride with him again because the first ride was too fast. I think he's heartbroken. We're going to take off the rear passenger pegs on both sides and mount up this cool race bracket. It's going to give this bike a really sleek, racy look. Instructions, okay? Very detailed from M4. They do a great job with all this. The biggest thing I want to stress is, remember, you know, with the exhaust restrictions out there, especially in California, that would make this a track-only modification. When we come back, I'll begin removing the exhaust from the bike. Okay, let's jump right into this brand new bike, 2016 Kawasaki ZX-10. This should be an adventure. I'm going to start by removing the heat shield down here that covers up the exhaust servo cables. This really looks like a pretty basic install here. Like I always say, save all of your stock parts. You never know what the future may hold. You might need this stuff again, so I highly recommend that you keep it just in case you have any issues in the future. Okay, and now what we're going to do is remove the actual stock exhaust itself. 10mm bolt here. Go ahead and loosen this up with a T-handle. We will, of course, weigh all of these stock parts and compare them to the weight of the M4 system. I've got Dalton down there right now weighing that. There's, without question, going to be a considerable weight savings by installing that M4 system. Okay, there is our stock exhaust canister. Now we need to deal with the actual muffler box itself. And I think the easiest way to get to these cables is going to be, let's get the muffler box loosened up and lower it down. I think it's going to give me better access to actually deal with the cables. Now, the lower fairing on this side, I don't think I need to take it off. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and just remove some of the fasteners and see if I'm able to move it around a little bit and get the system off the bike without actually removing the entire fairing. Any of the new fairings today, they are all pretty flexible and they will typically, you know, allow you to move them around a little bit without damaging anything. So we'll do that. If that doesn't give us enough room to operate, we will then of course just remove the lower here on the right side. You can see that definitely has got quite a bit of movement there, so I think we're going to be good to go. We've got a 10mm clamp here. I'm going to need a swivel there to access that while the fairing's still on. Okay, I put a 10mm swivel socket on the T-handle, and that is pretty tight, but we should be okay here. There we go. Piece of cake. Okay, barrel clamp is loose. Now we need to loosen up the main mount for the muffler box itself, or the catalyst. There is one mount, it's right here, and it's mounted to a large boss on the frame. Got a 6mm Allen fastener. Once again, I do have a universal on this. End of the day, you could probably just pull the lower fairing, right, if you want a little more room. But you know, all that experience that I've got wrenching the dealerships on the cars has led me to the place where I always try hard to remove as little as possible when doing anything. So let's get this loosened up and get that muffler box off of here. Move that around a little bit, wiggle it. And there is the mounting bolt for that. Okay, we've got the mount from the muffler box removed. We've got the clamp loose. You know, after looking at it a little bit closer down there, the way the cables for that exhaust valve are routed, what I want to do is stop there. I'm going to come up top, disassemble this, and get the cables off of the servo motor. It's going to make the install much easier. Okay, if you're installing an exhaust system on your bike, your Kawasaki ZX-10, that eliminates that exhaust valve, you're going to have a check engine light, and nobody wants to ride around on a brand new top level super bike looking at a check engine light. The way around it is simple, very affordable part. The scooter net exhaust servo buddy, we're going to pull off the cable, the stepper motor, plug this in, it communicates with the ECU, boom, no light at all. Okay, to access the servo motor and the cables, the first thing we need to do is pull the passenger pylon off. We're using the key to release that, put it to the side. Now we've got 4 fasteners up here, 4mm Allens. Once we get this panel off, we'll be able to remove the rider seat, which is going to give us access to the servo motor as well as the cables. So you get your 4 fasteners out here, 4mm Allen. As always, I recommend you keep all of the stock parts. You never know what the future may hold. Now, once the fasteners are out, I want you to grab this panel like so and pull back. Okay, there's some clips that slide in forward and lock it down. Pull back, lift up. Put it to the side so you don't step on it. We've got a 10mm socket here on our T-handle. This will release the rider seat itself. And this will give us access. Okay, now here is the servo motor. This could be a problem for some people, okay? This has one of those tamper-proof Torx. What does that mean? It means that in the center of that Torx, there is a raised button that will block a normal Torx bit from going in there. Fortunately, I have the bit to remove that, okay? So I can get in here, loosen this bad boy up, and work with the cables, okay? Now, let's say that you don't have that bit and you still need to get this job done. You could, okay, just disassemble it down at the muffler box. It's going to be a little trickier to work with the cables, I'm not going to lie to you. You could force it a little bit and still make it happen. The right way to do it is to have this bit, because as you see, that allows me to pull this up like so and easily get this apart. So if you need to go a little primitive, Pete, and you're not going to reuse this stuff, you could do that, okay? You could even, if you had to, cut one of the cables. So just so there's no surprises going into this, remember, you're going to need that tamper-proof Torx bit. Now we have here a safety clip in place that holds the cables in place. We're going to need to get a screwdriver to release that. All right, let's grab our screwdriver to release this safety clip here. The easiest way to do that is kind of slide it in there and pull forward. Okay, we're going to save all this stuff in case Josh needs to use it in the future. Now we're able to get in here, right, and get these cables out of the way. It's going to be tied down in a couple of different places, okay, and we're going to need to be able to thread these through there, so we're going to have to disassemble this bracket right here so we can get access to the zippy tie that they go through. Okay, we've got one of the factory tie downs up here. We're going to slide that out of there. Right, I was able to create a little bit of space by loosening up that fuel tank mount. Right, not a ton, but a little. Okay, I got the factory cable tie slid through there. We're just going to go ahead and replace this. So we're going to just trim this, cut it right off right now, like so. And we'll just replace that with another cable tie. And it's going to get us some movement there in the cables. Hopefully, we're going to be able to get these bad boys out of there without having to pull the subframe. It is pretty tight down there. I'm going to say that right now. It is definitely pretty tight. Okay, now we've got the servo motor itself. Very basic technology. I think they've been using the same one since 2004. Okay, it's held in by a couple of Phillips screws. Like so. You're going to lose a little bit of weight when you do this too. It's pretty negligible end of the day, but there is a little weight savings benefit that is attached to the servo eliminator modification. Okay. Save all your fasteners. Of course, save the servo motor itself in case it needs to go back on the motorcycle at some point. Okay, fasteners are out. And up comes that servo motor, like so. Now bring the wires around and we'll be able to disconnect. So I'm pushing down on the release tabs and pulling. Okay, so we're going to replace this with this. Okay, that is in place. Let's go ahead and reuse that factory cover like so. Now we're going to focus on actually removing the cables from the bike. We'll come back up here after, tidy everything up really nice, secure all the wires, put the seat back on. Okay, now, we need to get the cables out of the bike, right? They're still attached down here at the muffler box. They're routed kind of behind the subframe and behind the frame here. And looking back in there, and remember, you know how I am, I try to do things without removing all of the bodywork. There is essentially kind of a metal tang, a little bracket here that is located right here. You can slide your hand in there, your left hand, and feel it. Both cables are routed through it. It is open-ended towards the front, so you can manipulate the cable a little bit and get it out of that bracket, okay? There's the first one, and the second one is a little tight. There we go. Okay, so I've got it outside of that mounting bracket. Now, we still have a ways to go because I have to get it to come all the way down. Some people might choose to be less patient and just literally cut this stuff and discard it. My preference would always be to, you know, basically save it so that we can reuse if we need to in the future. So our goal is going to be preservation of all the stock parts. And what I'm doing here is just literally kind of a little back and forth. All right, very easily, not pulling too hard. I'm just trying to fish it right out. And to really gain proper access, okay, to make this super easy to where there's none of what I'm doing right now, you would need to remove the fuel tank, okay? And I think for some folks, you know, now we're getting out of the comfort zone, okay, with the fuel tank. So patience will go a long way here, and you don't want to put yourself in a position where you're pulling really hard, okay? As long as you mind the amount of pressure that you're using, okay? And exercise a little bit of patience, you can save yourself a tremendous amount of disassembly. That said, if you have other projects that you're going to be doing at the same time, you could stack them all up so that you're literally doing them on top of each other, okay? Projects like that would be, say if you're going to do block-off plates. You're going to do block-off plates, you're pulling the gas tank for sure, okay? Because you got to pull the air box and the whole gig. So then, if you do this and the block-offs at the same exact time, okay, you don't have to deal with any of that fiddling. So you see, what did that burn there? Probably 3-4 minutes of fiddling around. Everything's okay, completely in a reusable state. They're still attached to the exhaust. Everything else is loose. Slide this bad boy back, feed them through the frame like so. And there it is. We've got all of our stock parts removed. Okay, like we said earlier in the video, right, Josh has already taken his wife for one ride, scared her. She's done. She's not riding on the bike anymore. So we're going to install the supplied race mount bracket, which allows us to eliminate the rear passenger pegs. So it's going to give this bike an even cleaner look, right? So we'll go ahead, and I've already removed the one on the clutch side of the bike. M4 has supplied some hardware along with the bracket. So you'll take your stock stuff off, put it to the side, and we'll get that bracket mounted up from there. We move on to the good parts, which is actually installing the system. Everybody's pumped right now, waiting to hear what it's going to sound like. We're going to use just a little bit of blue Loctite here to make sure this does not come loose. This is a nice little aluminum bracket that M4 has fabricated for this bike. They supply this with select models, right? And fortunately, the 2016 ZX-10 is one of those models. Go ahead and get that mounted up. A little Loctite here is a good call. All right. Make sure everything stays nice and tight. Okay. One race mount bracket. Now we're ready to install our slip-on, or our mid-pipe here. We're going to install the O2 bung because he's not going to use an auto tune or anything on this bike as of right now. So let's go and install that before we put the pipe on the bike. Make sure it's tight. Now, I want to lubricate this a little bit with the anti-seize that they have supplied us. A very important note with the titanium especially, actually with any exhaust. Before we start this motorcycle, I am going to thoroughly clean all of the metal surfaces, right? Because I've got oily hands, we all do, right? Natural skin oil. That will all burn right into, especially the titanium. So if you start the bike, even for a moment, before cleaning it, you will be looking at your fingerprints for a lifetime. All right, we'll do the same for the exhaust canister. This makes it go on a lot easier, and then if you ever need to service it down the road, some work on the bike, it'll come apart nicely. A little bit of lube in there. And get that seated all the way. Make sure that the loops for the springs are lined up like so. And from here, we're going to go ahead and get our canister bracket installed. Okay, supplied carbon strap. It's going to look great on this canister. Even the hardware is nice, right? You've got this spacer for the external part here. Go ahead and it's another great spot to use just a little bit of blue Loctite. Go a long way. Slide this over your canister. Right. I want to make sure the pipe is all the way forward against the stock header. Now, when you're installing this, right, let's go ahead and kind of work the band around the canister, like so. It's a pretty robust piece of carbon they've got there, so let's apply a little pressure. Slide that through the bracket. Okay, install the nut, and once again I want to make sure that's all the way forward. And we'll tighten this, put the springs on, tighten the clamp. Let's go ahead and snug the barrel clamp up. This is really high quality hardware that they've used here. Nice barrel clamp. Okay, cleanup. I'm going to clean with two different things. For the titanium, we're going to use WD-40. WD here on a rag, you don't need too much. Now for the carbon, it's a tiny little bit of Windex. You can use Windex for a lot of things. A little acne, skin problems, just spray it right on it, it'll be perfect. Okay, a little bit of reassembly down here. It's pretty basic stuff. I'm gonna put the fasteners in. You can see, obviously, this fit phenomenally, so we're gonna put this in. We're going to go up top, button her up, and it'll be time for what everybody's waiting for. What does it sound like? Okay, now we're going to button up the top, right? We've got the servo motors out, the cables are out, exhaust is on, and you'll see I secured our servo buddy right over here against the harness. Very simple, one cable tie, piece of cake. I replaced the cable tie here up front, no problem. We're ready for the seat and the rear column. The servo buddy is, if you're going to install the exhaust, right, and not flash tune the bike right away, or not flash tune the bike at all, it's going to be a necessity. Okay, you don't want to drive around a sweet bike like this looking at a check engine light. So this video should help you install it on the brand new ZX-10 model. sure you get both of these snug. Now for that rear column. Turn it upside down, you're going to see we have on each side, okay, we have a total of 3 tangs on each side for a total of 6, okay. What you need to do is put it in position first, okay. Got to kind of work it around, get each of those tabs lined up, and then push it forward like so, all right. You put the pressure on it, get the tabs in, then give it a little push forward, and then check your body lines. Make sure it looks the same from side to side. Everything looks copacetic. Put your fasteners back in. We'll put our pylon back on, and we will be good to go. All right, here we go. This is the moment of truth. Josh has been standing here while we shoot this video for an hour just waiting to hear what is it going to sound like, right? We actually warmed the bike up before this because you know I'm going to rev it, and I would never rev a cold motor, especially one that does not belong to me. So here we go. I think that says it all, doesn't it?
Oh yeah.
Remember, some of the popping and farting that you're seeing, number one, the bike's not loaded, right? We're revving it on a stand. Block off plates on top of the engine. Him and I talked about that. That's going to help with that. And then down the road, I know you want to flash tune it as well, which is going to work with that. But that's pretty normal, right? When you see that, it looks absolutely amazing.
Of course.
Anyways, but that will subside with a couple additional modifications. I want to thank you for taking the time to come up here. It was great to meet you today. Thanks for letting me work on your bike. This is our M4 Tech 1 Carbon cat eliminating exhaust install on a 2016 Kawasaki ZX-10R.